I'm Jeff Ranke, Editorial Director of Manufacturing.net, and welcome to Security Breach. Joining me for the first in a series of episodes discussing new and prevailing cybersecurity challenges confronting the U.S. industrial sector is Adam Kohnke from Madison, Wisconsin-based Infosec Institute. They're a leading cybersecurity training and education firm. Now, in addition to some of the supply chain challenges and labor shortages, one of the biggest issues emerging from the COVID-19 pandemic for the industrial sector has been the huge uptick in cyber attacks. And to make things worse, the Center for Strategic and International Studies, after studying cyber attack trends since 2006, says there is a clear pattern wherein these attacks will increase during the month of October, with 5 offending countries or entities responsible for the majority of these incidents. Based upon analysis, it's predicted that cyber attacks originating in Russia, China, North Korea, and Iran will increase this month. Now, Adam, as if the industrial sector wasn't dealing with enough stuff emanating from the pandemic, there's been a huge uptick in these different types of cyber attacks, whether it's ransomware, phishing schemes, whatever. Before we get into some of the things from the report, what can you tell us that just makes the industrial sector such a primary target for a lot of these bad actors?
Good question, Jeff. So I think, on a regional, national, local level, ICS systems, the companies that are running them, they, are a prime target due to their ability to disrupt, whether it's power generation or cleaning water, manufacturing, whatever it may be. They're prime targets due to that ability to disrupt, maybe gain valuable data, and basically escalate other attacks, sometimes serving as a distraction. You knock down power in a region, maybe that's bringing down IT or security systems and other targets these malicious actors are after. They're going to continue to be prime targets for malicious actors.
Okay. Before we get into some of those specific attacks again, what can you tell us a little bit, if you're going to profile some of these folks that are really coming after us, what drives them? What makes them up?
I was reading on several reports and sources from HackerOne, from BugCrowd. My thought is it's probably difficult to profile a malicious actor in these groups because it's not like they're advertising who they are. Yeah. But the research I came across as recent as 2020 suggested these are mostly male actors under 34. And they have a wide range of motivations to carry out these attacks. Some of it is financial. Some of it may be social validation. Sometimes it's a rite of passage as well. If you want to join a hacker outfit, you may have to prove your skills to the organization, and they say, go carry out a ransomware attack against Orge. It's like joining a gang these days in the cyber world. The groups are, they're labeled in the industry as advanced persistent threats, APT groups. So, they will have the resources, funding, personnel to perform sustained attacks against the org. We're like a lone wolf actor. They may not have the resources to try for more than a day or so. I think on average, 24 hours, the typical hacker gives up if they can't get in. They're going to attempt to, probe all the entry points into the organization, maintain persistence once they get a foothold, and they won't necessarily announce their presence in the network or in your systems. They might get in, get a foothold, watch, see what they can get, start trying to escalate privileges, exfiltrate data, maybe even leave a bomb behind that destroys things after they get what they want.
Boy, it's scary.
Yeah.
That is really frightening. There's been some high-level attacks that have gotten a lot of notoriety, a lot of headlines lately. We look at the Colonial Pipeline, we look at the JBS situation, and we've covered a lot of wastewater or water treatment facilities that have also been subject to a lot of these different types of attacks, phishing, ransomware, or just a straight-up hack. When you look at infrastructure, we talked about the industrial sector. We looked at manufacturers really being just key economically when you look at the vitality of the United States. In addition to maybe some outdated systems, what makes some of our infrastructure targets easier to get at or more prone or more susceptible to some of these attacks?
Yeah, I think a lot of these facilities that have these ICS systems, they want to maintain operations. That's where their concentration is. It may not necessarily be around cybersecurity, protecting the network, but a lot of these ICS, SCADA systems, they usually ship with default usernames and passwords, or they're running outdated protocols and things that just haven't kept pace with cybersecurity trends and requirements to maintain a secure network. So it can even be a multitude of these systems coming in. So it's like, are you doing supplier management? Are you checking for, suppliers that maintain a strict level of cybersecurity requirements before they ship products out? Do they maintain them? Do they make patches available? Those are some key considerations for ICS.
Yeah. Continuing attacks means continuing diligence as well.
Continuing weakness and vulnerability, and you have to manage the cyber actors, but also your system suppliers.
Oh, that's interesting. I think that is probably an area too where a lot of folks fall down. They're focused on what's going on internally, not always thinking about what else is coming in from trusted suppliers in a lot of cases.
Precisely.
So we're going to stick with some of the scary stuff here. Looking at October and looking at some of those reports that have been coming in. Can you dive a little deeper and tell us what is it about these trends and why is October such a prevalent month for all these attacks?
Absolutely. So the Center for Strategic and International Studies, what that research from Infosec and kind of diving into the numbers kind of showed was during Q4 of the year in October specifically, that's when you start seeing natural disaster activity picking up, hurricanes and rock and mudslides, and that's when election cycles are typically kind of ramping up, and as a result protesting and people getting more politically active. So I think a lot of these things serve as distraction, and they make the opportunity to carry out a malicious cyber attack easier and a lot more prevalent.
Wow. Even this year, without the election stuff going on, or not at the same scale, not a presidential election, things like that, there's still heightened activity despite that.
I think that activity, but like I said, natural disaster, hurricanes down south and traveling up the east coast of the U.S., this is when it kind of begins to ramp up and just continue through Q4. So I think again, those things are like, okay, we're focusing on people being safe, knowing about the bad weather and what they should be doing. And so that distraction provides an increased opportunity for these cyber attacks to be carried out. And again, hackers have families. It's like, I need to maybe do my end of the year campaign and get ready for Christmas.
Wow, that's a scary way of thinking about it too. Even those practical elements that come into play.
Exactly.
Now, you guys have done a lot of research on this as well. Infosec has done some things. Are there some resources on the website that you can maybe point some folks to in regards to that?
Yeah, resources.infosec.com. We have a wide range of authors, content covering ICS and SCADA and all the recent cyber activity going on affecting these systems. It's a good resource for anybody to leverage, and it's free.
Cool. Yeah. Looking at some of these different attacks, and I think even the fact that a lot of like ransomware was maybe not in a lot of people's vocabulary 18 months ago, it is now. The phishing schemes have seemed always more consumer-based or individual-based as opposed to entity-based, but we're becoming more familiar with all of these different types of attacks. What can you tell us in terms of what an industrial enterprise can do to prepare and maybe even respond appropriately for these different types of attacks?
Yeah, having a sound cybersecurity awareness and training program is one key element. It's not the only one. But within the ICIS systems and the processes managed by the humans, it's very important to understand where a manual human decision or judgment may lead to a system compromise. And then you attempt to develop and implement controls around that, where you either take away the human element via automation or some other process where they become less prone to making a cybersecurity mistake, or you attempt to just constantly refine those processes and see where you can reduce and eliminate human activity.
Okay. And I guess that kind of leads into one of my last questions here. We've talked about a bunch of bad stuff and the scary stuff that's out there. Looking for something a little more positive, what is some of maybe the low-hanging fruit or some of the initial steps that manufacturers can take to deal with this continuing cyber attack situation?
Implementing good risk management, vulnerability management programs. I mean, it's hard to know what to protect until you do an activity to discover what do we have, what's vulnerable, how do we manage that, can we manage it?
Has there been anything you've seen that's really helped? Because there's usually, the stakeholders, they understand the significance of this. It's sort of selling it sort of up chain and down chain to everybody. Have there been anything that you've experienced that have been really successful tactics in helping get more people to buy in?
Yeah, I mean, I think once people again, going back to risks, I think when people understand what the risks are and really what the company direction is, whether it's IT or security, if you can communicate well, this is where we are, this is where we need to go to be more secure, this is how you can help. I think if you bring people in as more of like a stakeholder versus like we're mandating this on you or we're trickling this requirement down on you, you can bring people to the table and make them like a partner, so to speak. I think you get higher buy-in, people understand and care about it more, and then your chances for success to maintaining a higher security environment increase.
Absolutely. And we've seen that in a lot of different investment areas within the industrial enterprise. So that makes a lot of sense. So I'm going to put you on the spot here a little bit. If you don't want to answer this one, don't sweat it. But I've always been curious. We saw with Colonial, they paid out about $4.5 million for their ransomware. JBS was a big meat processor, paid out about $11 million reportedly for their ransomware attack. Do you have any opinions or insight? I mean, when's the right time to pay? When should you pay? When shouldn't you? Did Colonial do the right thing in your opinion? I mean, do you have any thoughts on that?
Yeah, in my opinion, we should never pay ransoms. Really all you're doing is incentivizing further attacks. Okay. And you're basically, and these things usually become public news. Yeah. Such and such paid this much money. So it tells the new up-and-comer hacker, I can get paid a lot of money if I successfully carry out a ransomware attack. So I mean, it's going to be different for everybody. Some ICS systems are more critical than others. My stance is always going to be, don't ever pay the ransom, because you also don't guarantee you're going to get your data or systems back. Yeah, so there's really no upside other than maybe they won't attack us again and we can get back to work whenever they feel like it. You need to concentrate more on having a good sound system of security control. Yeah. Can we back up our data? Are we using our privileged access and accounts correctly? Can we shift to an alternate DR site? Having, ransomware should be part of a DR BCP plan. Okay. Can we resume business and continue running when ransomware strikes, and how do we go about doing that?
Thanks for joining us, and stay tuned for future episodes of Security Breach.